They just don't get it, do they? They just don't get it. This is why these people are unpopular. This is why your things aren't succeeding. This is why you people lost. You can't just take the L and say, okay, maybe the show wasn't as good as it could have been or whatever. Instead, you just got to keep blaming others, not taking accountability, you know, phobes, isms, you name it. So Leslye Headcase's wife, Rebecca Henderson, once again blames fans for the Acolyte's cancellation, touts Star Wars shows ratings as though there's something to brag about. They weren't. They weren't. The cast of The Acolyte continued to tout the show's ratings, despite the fact that objective numbers, exactly, numbers don't lie, objective numbers show that hardly anyone watched it. However, this group of people seems insistent on doubling down and trying to blame anyone but themselves, or creator, showrunner, and Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, Leslye Headcase, for the show's cancellation. Instead, Leslye Headcase's wife is putting the blame where it really belongs, on you. And I guess me. By the way, this is an editorial, so it's going to be a little more freeform than usual. The fallout from the Acolyte's disastrous performance continues, but rather than accepting reality, Leslye Headcase's wife, Rebecca Henderson, has decided to lash out at fans because that's always the best thing to do. In a recent social media post, Henderson, who played Greenskin Jedi, did she even really have a real role in the movie, in the show, or was it just like, oh hey, this is my wife and she's gonna be in the show, okay? A casting choice that had nothing to do with being married to the showrunner. Blame the Acolyte's cancellation on critics and Star Wars fans while touting misleading data about the show's performance. Tell me again they canceled the show because no one watched it and not because you know why. I'm sorry. What would be the other reason? Oh, racism. Because apparently people didn't like OSHA or whatever because she was black. Not because she was as bland as a box of freaking sugarless cornflakes, but because she was black. Because that's always the fucking excuse with these people. It always comes down to race. Never taking the hint and like, oh, you know, maybe we didn't create that good of a product. Nope. Always comes down to racism, homophobia, misogyny, whatever. But juxtapose that with the fact that those big IP franchises were still the best performing series on Disney Plus, and the solution becomes unclear. Percy Jackson and the Olympians was top dog on Disney Plus last year with over 3 billion minutes viewed, and The Acolyte came in second place with 2.7 billion. But then when you compare it to say something like, oh, I don't know, this, when you have Fool Me Once with 12 billion, The Gentleman 8 billion. How much did they say they had? 2.7 billion. Here are the top shows at that time. Love is Blind. Let's go eat, huh? What a story, Mark. So the fact that she seems to say that 2 billion, you know, whatever billion, it's not even enough to make it on the top 10. So who are they trying to gaslight here? Henderson shared a headline that promoted the Acolyte's ratings, describing the series penned by her wife as the most watched show on Disney Plus in 2024, adding the snide caption, "Tell me again." Yeah, we just read that. You know why. You know what? Based on the obnoxious way she said that, coupled with the fact that she has to be intentionally trying to mislead, and that this is an editorial where I, the editor, can say whatever I want, I'm only referring to her as Leslye Headcase's wife from here on out, capitalize as though it's a proper noun even. While she didn't elaborate on you know why, meant the implication is clear. Leslye Headcase's wife appears to just suggest that the Acolyte was canceled for reasons other than terrible ratings. And in the world of this cast, that typically means racism and sexism. Uh-huh. This echoes comments made by the series Star, a term that's only appropriate because she's burnt out. Amanda Stenberg, who played two characters with two characters with one facial expression, and the always insufferable Jodie Turner-Smith. Yeah, you're like, oh, you hate her because she's black. No, she's a terrible character. I mean, you can't write a character to be more bland than a bowl of grape nuts and expect us to like them. You know, I've said this before. I was talking about it with what's her face, freaking chick, so forgettable, Brie Larson. A freaking cardboard cutout of her has more personality than the person itself. It's the same thing with this chick. She's just like so one-dimensional. And that's why they don't like her. It's not because she's black. It's not because she's a woman. But here's the problem. Scroll back up to the image. You see that the bottom where it reads, read the entire report. If you do, you'll see that the very article she shared contains the truth about the show's failure. Anyone who actually read it would realize the Acolyte, being Disney Plus's second most watched watch series, is not a victory for the Acolyte. It's a devastating and scathing indictment of Disney Plus's struggles. Because the Acolyte rank on Disney Plus means absolutely nothing. The LHW or anyone else who clicked on the full report, I'm assuming you did, and is banking on the fact that you won't, or I'm assuming she did and is banking on the fact that you won't, they would have quickly seen that being the second most watched show on Disney Plus isn't something to brag about. It's proof of how far the platform has fallen. As we previously reported, the Acolyte pulled in 2.7 billion minutes viewed, while it might sound decent until you compare it to the industry standard. Exactly. I mean, the lowest is number 10, Love is Blind, with 7.38 billion minutes watched. So a show that only had 2.5 billion, that's like really not even in the top 20. Like, even if it was, it'd be like 15, close to 20. So what are they trying to say? How are they trying to spin it? Like, seriously, let's just take the fucking L, people. Just fucking take the L and accept that it had nothing to do with racism or misogyny. It was just a shitty show. Not that hard. The lowest ranked show in the top 10 streaming originals of the year, Netflix's Love is Blind, pulled in 7.3 billion minutes viewed. That's nearly 3 times the viewership of The Acolyte, and it's still at only 10. Meanwhile, Netflix completely dominated the rankings with 7 of the top 10 spots, with Paramount Plus and Amazon Prime also made the list. Disney Plus was completely absent. Let's put this in simpler terms. If The Acolyte is the second most watched show on Disney Plus, and yet it still wasn't anywhere close to being the top performing show in streaming, then what does that say about Disney Plus? It says that Disney Plus doesn't have a single show capable of competing with Netflix, Amazon, or Paramount Plus in 2024. That's not a flex, that's an embarrassment. While LHW seems eager to mock fans, Leslye Headcase's wife. I'm sorry, that's just funny. It's like she's just they'd rather just abbreviate it than say it. She conveniently ignores ignores the fact that The Acolyte's viewership actually collapsed over its run. Yeah. As we previously covered, the show started with high numbers. Obviously, yeah, as they usually do. The show, the beginning, the first episode, always has the most views because it's like, oh, whoa, new show. Well, let's see how it is. So the first episode and the final episode will always have the most views. Everything else, it goes like that, and then during the course of it goes like that, and then it'll spike back up again for the finale. That's just how shows work. But it hemorrhaged viewers each week, steadily declining until the finale recorded the lowest viewership of the entire series. But still, probably more than what, you know. Well, I did say that's how it is, but unfortunately for the Acolyte, seems like that's not the case. Normally, the first and final episode, even like Doctor Who, as bad as Doctor Who's been, the first episodes and the final episodes are always the most viewed. Because they're like, oh, let's see how the shit show's gonna end. You see, while it's a good thing when your show starts with a high viewership, it's not great when that's your peak. That's actually the opposite of what happens when audiences are engaged. Engage. In a successful show, viewership holds steady or even increases leading up to the finale as anticipation builds. Yeah. Instead, the Acolyte repelled viewers to the point that most of them didn't even bother finishing the whole series. Minutes watched by millions? We got Percy Jackson at number 1, Acolyte number 2. Again, this is like, these are terrible, terrible numbers. I was just talking about Brie Larson. When compared to Percy Jackson and the Olympians, which also aired on Disney Plus, the Acolyte's performance looks even worse. How many did they have? Yeah, I mean, look at the gap between those. I mean, it's not a huge gap, but it's still enough to show that people were more interested in Percy Jackson and the Olympians than they were in the Acolyte. Percy Jackson debuted 9 days before Illuminate started counting, meaning its first episodes weren't even counted in the Illuminate 2024 report. Yet it still beat the Acolyte in total viewership. That's how little interest the Acolyte generated, despite Star Wars branding, a massive marketing push, and endless access media support. While our friend LHW posts truly exposes is not the success of the Acolyte, but the dire state of Lucasfilm and Disney Plus. The Acolyte was supposed to be a major ratings hit and a huge addition to Star Wars canon, which not anymore. Yet it turned into one of the least watched and most reviled projects in the franchise. And while its failure is bad enough, the fact that it was still the most second watched show on Disney Plus is telling us something much worse. Disney has no hits. Yeah, I mean, everything they've done, it's just no one likes it. But well, no original hits anyway. People seem to love Bluey. This is why the Acolyte being canceled wasn't some grand conspiracy against the show's message or its creators, though both of those were truly terrible. It was a financial decision. UK tax documents unearthed by that Park Place revealed that Lucasfilm and Disney shelled out a staggering 172 million euros, approximately 231 million, for the series production, with a mere 8 episodes. This translates to exorbitant $28.75 million per episode. Disney co-CEO Alan Bergman said as much when he commented on the series cancellation. We were happy with our performance, but it wasn't where we needed it to be given the cost structure of that title. Quite frankly, to go and make season 2. So that's the reason why we didn't do it. Disney Plus isn't in a position to keep hemorrhaging money on underperforming content. And with the Star Wars brand decaying faster than a great dragon under the Tatooine Suns. Under Kathleen Kennedy's leadership, Lucasfilm is no longer able to sustain flops the way it once could. It's no surprise that Leslye Headcase has now quietly exited her Netflix project, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, just as The Acolyte's failure became undeniable. When Hollywood executives see that a showrunner's latest project was not only rejected by audiences, but also lost money for the studio, they tend to, or should, let's be real, feeling upwards is never really a thing here, move in a different direction. Yeah, so basically she's just blaming everyone else for her fucking problems, and being able to keep your mouth shut is a sign of discipline, something the woke also lack. When you block puberty, you prevent that individual from ever maturing to the level of an adult. It's not Headcase's wife, it's her same-sex partner. I miss when we had a wall of separation protecting the church from being forced into things by the government. But yeah, once again, you have these stupid bitches opening their mouths and trying to act like there's some other reason for the show failing. No, it was just a bad show. Nothing to do with race, nothing to do with women. It was a bad show. No one liked it. No one watched it. Simple as that. Because there are black people who watched it and they don't like it. There were women watching it. They didn't like it. What, are you going to say those black people are racist and those women are misogynistic? I mean, really? Come on. It's not just fucking white men watching this stuff, despite what the left tries to tell you, that it's all a bunch of grown white men. No. These things are diverse. They are diverse. But they always want to blame white people and racists. And so what about the black people who had criticisms about it? Are they racist now? Yeah. How about thinking about what you say before you fucking say, you dumb, stupid bitch? But anyway, what do we know? We're just a bunch of phobes and isms. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.